Org, Hibernate exception. Access to dialect resolution info cannot be null when Hibernate dialect not set. Here is your same structured beginner-friendly content for org.hibernate exception. Access to dialect resolution info cannot be null when Hibernate.dialect not set. Spring Boot error explained introduction. When working with databases in a Spring Boot application using Hibernate, you may encounter this error. Org.hibernate exception. Access to dialect resolution info cannot be null when Hibernate dialect not set. This error usually appears during application startup. It means Hibernate cannot determine which SQL dialect to use for your database. Understanding this error helps you configure database correctly, understand Hibernate internals, fix startup issues quickly, avoid common configuration mistakes. What is Hibernate dialect? A dialect tells Hibernate how to generate SQL for a specific database. Different databases have different SQL syntax. Examples: MySQL uses limit, Oracle uses row_num, PostgreSQL has its own syntax. Simple meaning: Hibernate dialect equals database-specific SQL rules. Example: MySQL means MySQL dialect, PostgreSQL means PostgreSQL dialect, Oracle means Oracle dialect. What does this error mean? This error means Hibernate could not determine which database you are using. In simple terms, no dialect plus no database metadata equals Hibernate cannot generate SQL. Example concept: Hibernate starts, needs database type, cannot detect it, throws exception. Why Hibernate needs dialect? Hibernate generates SQL automatically. To do this, it must know database type SQL syntax support and features. Without dialect, Hibernate cannot generate queries. How Hibernate normally detects dialect? Hibernate can automatically detect dialect using database connection, JDBC URL, database metadata. Example concept: datasource available means Hibernate detects DB means dialect autoset. Why this error happens? This error occurs when Hibernate cannot detect database from datasource or find explicitly configured dialect. Common causes: 1. Missing spring.datasource.url. If no datasource URL is provided, missing spring datasource URL, Hibernate cannot connect to database to detect dialect. Example concept: no DB connection means no dialect detection to database not running, even if URL is correct. Spring.datasource.url equals JDBC MySQL localhost 3306 MyDB. If the database is not running, connection fails. Hibernate cannot read metadata. Example concept: DB down means no metadata, means no dialect 3, missing database driver dependency. Example: using MySQL URL, but missing MySQL driver dependency. Hibernate cannot connect to database. Example concept: no driver means no connection, means no dialect 4. Incorrect JDBC URL. Wrong format. Spring.datasource.url. MySQL. Localhost 3306. MyDB. Correct format. Spring.datasource.url equals jdbc.mysql localhost 3306 MyDB. Example concept: invalid URL means connection fails 5. Missing Hibernate dialect. Manual configuration case. If Hibernate cannot auto-detect dialect, you must specify it manually. Example: spring.jpa.properties hibernate.dialect equals org.hibernate.dialect MySQL dialect. Example concept: auto-detect fails means manual dialect required. 6. Using custom data source configuration incorrectly. If you manually configure data source but forget required properties, Hibernate may fail. Basic fix: configure data source properly. Ensure your application.properties contains full data source configuration. Example for MySQL: spring datasource.url equals JDBC MySQL localhost 3306 MyDB. Spring datasource.username root. Spring datasource.password secret. Spring datasource.driver class name com.mysql.cj.jdbc. Spring JPA Hibernate DDL auto equals update. Fix by setting dialect manually. If auto detection fails, explicitly set dialect. Example spring.jpa.properties.hibernate.dialect equals org.hibernate.dialect MySQL dialect. PostgreSQL example spring.jpa.properties.hibernate.dialect equals org.hibernate.dialect PostgreSQL dialect. H2 example spring.jpa.properties.hibernate.dialect equals org.hibernate.dialect H2 dialect. It tells Hibernate directly. Use this SQL syntax means no need to detect database. Example of complete working configuration, application.properties. Spring datasource.url equals jdbc postgresql localhost 5432 testdb. Spring datasource username equals postgres. Spring datasource password equals secret. Spring datasource driver class name equals org.postgresql driver. Spring JPA properties Hibernate dialect equals org.hibernate dialect PostgreSQL dialect. Spring.jpa Hibernate DDL auto equals update. Spring.jpa show SQL true. How Spring Boot plus Hibernate works internally at startup. Spring Boot initializes data source. Hibernate tries to connect, reads DB metadata, determines dialect, starts ORM engine. If any step fails, this error appears. Real-world scenario. You add Spring Data JPA dependency, but your config only contains server.port equals 8080. Result? Spring tries to configure Hibernate. No data source found. No dialect detected. Error occurs. Example concept. JPA present plus no DB config equals Hibernate error debug checklist. If you see this error, check. Step 1. Do you have spring.datasource.url? Step 2. Is the database running? Step 3. Is the correct driver dependency added? Step 4. Is the JDBC URL correct? Step 5. Try setting dialect manually. Example concept. Check connection means fix config, means error resolved, special case, embedded database. If using H2, add dependency, group ID com H2 database, group ID, artifact ID, H2 artifact ID. Dependency, config Spring data source URL, JDBC H2 mem testdb, spring.jpa.properties.hibernate.dialect, org.hibernate.dialect.h2 dialect. Common mistakes. Assuming Hibernate works without DB config. It cannot. Forgetting to start database using wrong dialect class. Example. org.hibernate.dialect MySQL5 dialect. Verse is org hibernate dialect MySQL dialect. Mixing profiles incorrectly. Config may exist in another profile, but not active. Example concept. Small config issue means major startup failure. Advantages of understanding this error. Understanding this error helps you fix database startup issues quickly, understand ORM configuration, debug connection problems, configure Spring Boot properly. Example concept. Understand dialect means smoother DB integration. Concepts learned. What Hibernate dialect is, how Hibernate detects database type, why data source configuration is important, how Spring Boot auto configuration works, how to fix dialect-related errors. Simple definition. Hibernate dialect error. An error that occurs when Hibernate cannot determine the database type because data source configuration or dialect setting is missing. Final summary. This error occurs when Hibernate cannot determine which database dialect to use. The main reasons include missing data source URL, database not running, Missing driver dependency, incorrect JDBC configuration, missing dialect configuration. To fix it, configure data source properly. Ensure database is running. Add correct driver dependency. Optionally set Hibernate.dialect manually. Understanding this error is essential for working with Spring Boot, Hibernate, and database integration.